Hi besties and welcome back to my channel. We are filming my first whole video on my camera today and I'm so freaking excited. I hope the quality is incredible. Now today's video is a bit of an exciting one. I have been looking forward to filming one of these videos for a long time, but I never felt like I had enough recommendations for you. But finally, after my dark romance reading vlog, I feel like I have quite a few worthy ones for you. I haven't done a recommendation video in a hot minute, but I figured why not talk about some of my favorite books from one of my favorite tropes, which does of course happen to be Mafia romance. I love the crime aspect and the violence and just like the overprotectiveness that comes with the territory of Mafia romances. Oh, it's just so good. None of these people in these books that I'm about to recommend to you are good people. I just want to put it out there that I don't support any of this stuff in real life, but I enjoy reading it from the safety of my home where my rights as a woman are intact and when the stories are just ink on paper. I do just want to give you a very blanket statement for every single one of these books that I'm about to recommend, and that is to check trigger warnings if you have triggers, because some of them are a little bit dark and have some potentially triggering content. So let's jump right into it. My first recommendation for you is from one of my favorite Mafia series, and that is of course Bound by Honor by Cora Riley. In this one we have Luca, otherwise known as the Vice, because the man crushed his cousin's throat with his bare hands, and he finds himself getting into an arranged marriage with Aria, who is the most beautiful woman of her entire family. In my opinion, Bound by Honor is the blueprint for arranged marriages in Mafia romances, where the two of them are forced into the marriage by their families to unite the two empires in an alliance. Beyond that, this book doesn't actually have a whole lot of like structured plot, but when I tell you the characters in this book and this world will keep you absolutely hooked. We have two huge families. Aria is leaving her sisters and she's still trying to stay in contact with them. It's trying to convince Luca to let her go home to visit them. And her youngest sister Gianna does have her own book in this series. She's so up in arms about the arranged marriage and she's just like kicking and screaming and trying to drag Aria home, but Aria, you know, she kind of comes around, and the whole book is just about her and Luca's relationship development and kind of watching them as they get to know each other. And Luca, the man is very widely feared. He is intimidating, he is controlling, he is the blueprint for a mafia man, okay? This book is the blueprint. I adore him. Like, he's a scary man, but I love him, and just seeing him be so patient with Aria, oh my god, there's this one scene in this book. It had me screaming and kicking my feet, okay? So in this like old world traditionalist Italian New York mafia world, they have this tradition and it's disgusting. It's like so barbaric, so just like degrading and nasty, right? And it is the bloody sheets tradition. I don't know if it's a real thing, but it's in the book, and it's basically when the sheets are like put on display the morning after the wedding to like show proof of consummation. It's disgusting, okay? It's nasty, but this scene made me absolutely fall in love with Luca. Luca cuts himself and dilutes his blood in like a little bit of whiskey, a little bit of water, and like splashes it on the sheets and then leaves Aria alone. Like, listen, in a world of big bad mafia men, that is the bare minimum. But it really had me swooning for him. So do with that what you will. I absolutely adore this book. There's a whole series that follows all of the characters in the world. They are all interconnected standalones, but I do recommend that you follow the reading order because I think it just makes the most sense that way, and we get like teasers of each couple in each book, like the previous book, and this series is just like so near and dear to my heart. I get so excited every time I get to recommend it. And yeah, Bound by Honor, while it does have some other woman drama in it, I was honestly head over heels for Aria and Luca by the end of it. Luca, that man would have died for Aria and vice versa. Alrighty, moving on to the next recommendation. It is another Cora Riley book, but it is the last of her books that I will be recommending to you. But the next book that I have for you is Twisted Loyalties by Cora Riley. This is the first book in her Kimura Chronicles series, which kind of follows the Born in Blood series, which Bound by Honor is the first book of, but it can be read as standalone if you are like more interested in this series. I would recommend starting with Bound by Honor and like following the whole timeline, but if you don't care for them and you just want to jump right into this one, you absolutely can do that. So the Kimura Chronicles, they basically take the violence and unhingedness that was the Born in Blood series and multiply it. Like, there is psychopaths, there is emotionally morally grey men, there is cage fighting, there is illegal street racing, there is murder, there is pillaging. It's just it's a lot, but like kind of fun, you know? So Twisted Loyalties follows Fabiano, and Fabiano is the enforcer for the Camorra, and he is also I think it's like a cage fighter. The blurb says street fighter, but I think he fights in a cage. My memory like maybe a little bit hazy because I read this book a long time ago, but he fights and it's hot. But his interests are piqued when a new woman starts working behind the bar at the cage fighting arena, and their paths ultimately cross when he has to collect a debt from her father. This one wasn't my favorite of the series, but I still absolutely devoured it in like one sitting. It was just so addictive to read. Fabi is also surprisingly sweet to Leona, who is the love interest, and plot twist, well, yeah, plot twist, it's not a spoiler, don't worry. Fabiano is actually the little brother of Arya from Bound by Honor. So all I'm saying is if you take the time to read Born in Blood before coming to the Camorra, you will get to see his entire backstory. You will get to see him grow up from being like 4 years old or something like that, and his character will just make a lot more sense, I think. But yes, if you're after a bit of a like illegal fighter kind of mafia romance, I'd absolutely recommend this one. This next book that I have for you is a little bit of a different vibe. It's more like secret society than mafia, but it still has like mafia elements, so I'm gonna call it a mafia romance. And that book is Kingdom Fall by Asa Varelli. So the society's enforcer, torturer, information gatherer, shall we say Alessio, is in need of a nanny to watch over his son Nino while he does the, you know, torturing and debt collecting and killing people. So he holds a series of interviews to interview these various women to see who would be the best fit for his son Nino, and he settles on Natalia because Miss Natalia piques his interests in more ways than one. She's a little mysterious girly. Now Natalia actually has ulterior motives, which obviously Alessio is not aware of, and I'm not going to go into them too much because it would be a spoiler, but let me tell you, when the plot twist happened, when the penny dropped, everything just clicked and I was gobsmacked. My jaw was on the floor. Oh my god, it was crazy. I will just say Asa Varelli is quickly becoming one of my favorite mafia authors because she's just such an emotive storyteller, and while some of her other mafia books follow a like pretty distinct pattern, this one absolutely breaks the mold. There's slow burn, but there's also violence, and it's paced so well, and oh, I just adore this book so much. Keeping in the theme of Asa Varelli, I'm gonna recommend you her other mafia series. This is Crow by Asa Varelli. This is the first book in her Boston Underworld series. All of the books in this series are pretty short but super action-packed, and I will just say I'm pretty sure they have new covers, so do not fret about this whole thing. Yeah, she still manages to pack like enough detail and character development into these books despite having a shorter page count, and I just adore and love reading about all of the different characters from the Irish crime syndicate. Like, oh my god, they're all such characters and like their own unique people, and it's really cool seeing like the interconnected standalones like all come together. It's a very good series. So Crow specifically follows the organization's leader, Lachlan, and his sort of like primary source of income and also like the home base for the gang is a club. And now Mackenzie, or Mac, is in need of a job, and she just so happens to get the gig as a dancer at Lachlan's club. However, similar to Natalia in Kingdom Fall, Mackenzie has ulterior motives. Mackenzie's best friend has disappeared. She's essentially fallen off the face of the earth, and Mackenzie has reason to believe that the club and the organization is responsible, and that obviously involves getting into Lachlan's good books in one way or another and gaining access to his information and kind of picking his brain on where her friend might have gone. This one is honestly just so well paced, and it's got some really well written action in the third act. I'm a big fan of action in my mafia books, so I of course I'm going to mention it every time there's some good action. Also, I love the dynamic between the two main characters. It's just like so fiery, and their relationship is just like so intense but like sassy and hated, and it's just so good. I love their dynamic. Okay, next recommendation, we're gonna swing back around to the arranged marriages. I have Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark for you. Now this one is a little bit more of a popular mafia romance at the moment, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but if you're after a spicy enemies to lovers, she tries to literally kill him on their wedding day type of arranged marriage, I would absolutely recommend this one. It is fantastic. Sophie always does such a good job developing her characters and like developing the chemistry between them. Like, it's believable and I love that. She also has a serious knack for writing action in her books. Like, it genuinely plays out like a movie in my head. And one more point, Ada is absolutely the opposite of the typical Mafia heroine. She is so badass. She is stubborn. She will absolutely put her foot down and stand up to these weird ass traditions. So naturally I love her and I think you will too. And for this next recommendation, it's still within the Brutal Birthright universe because it is a interconnected standalone series of which Brutal Prince is the first book. It wouldn't be right if I didn't tell you about my favorite in the series, and that is Savage Lover by Sophie Lark. This is probably my favorite Mafia romance ever, and that's a big statement because I've read a lot. So the main way that I kind of tend to go back to describing Savage Lover is with all the Fast and Furious vibes. Like, it genuinely feels like a Fast and Furious movie, but with like a bank heist as well, and then the chemistry between the two main characters and the romance and the spice and all the car talk. Oh, it's so just like incredible. So Savage Lover here follows Nero, who is Ada from Brutal Prince's very volatile little brother, and Camille. So the two of them are familiar with each other because they obviously see each other around on the illegal street racing car circuit vibes, and they also went to high school together. However, they never really interacted. Camille also happens to be a struggling mechanic with a terminally ill father and a little brother to look after, so she's got a lot on her plate. But I think that does make her a really well-rounded heroine, and she is probably my favorite from the series. I know I just said I loved Ada, but I do think Camille is my favorite. Now, Camille actually gets caught up with law enforcement through the means of a dirty cop, and that kind of kickstarts the whole plot, and he's sort of holding something over her head and she feels indebted to him. So it's just a very interesting, convoluted, sort of twisty and turny plotline. Sophie absolutely smashed this one out of the park in terms of the characters' chemistry, and then the car scenes were just also like detailed and hot and spicy. Oh, there's some fantastic scenes in this book, let me tell you. Oh, and while Nero is obviously the son of this like big mafia leader dude in Chicago, you would think he would come across as like a little bit of a spoiled bad boy, but his character, he is so much more than that. He has some really sweet, like tender moments. There's this one caring scene where I think Nero gets beat up and Camille takes him back to her place and like soothes his wounds. Like literally, not in like a spicy way, but like literally, and it's just so freaking cute. I love that scene. Lives in my head rent free. This next book I did actually finish pretty recently. I talked about it in my dark romance reading vlog. If you want to go and check that video out, I low-key pretty proud of it. I really like that video. But the next Mafia romance recommendation I have for you is Painted Scars by Neva Altaj. Painted Scars is another pretty short read following Roman and Nina. So Roman is the leader or the pack-hand of the Russian Mafia. I believe it's set in America somewhere, and he has recently discovered that there is a rat in their mix. He is on the hunt for this traitor after a car explosion, which unfortunately left him wheelchair bound and undergoing extensive physical therapy. After Roman's injury, however, his men begin to see him as maybe less capable, a little bit weaker amongst them, perhaps not fit for the position of leader, which in my opinion, stupid, right? But Roman takes this to heart and he believes that if he can get himself a wife and start making moves to produce a family, shall we say, that his position will be more secure and obviously the control will be kept within his family. Now, Nina's father actually owes the Russians a pretty hefty debt, $3 million to be precise, and he cannot pay it back. So Roman takes the man's daughter, Nina, as payment. Now, quite surprisingly, Nina is actually not particularly up in arms. Like, she's not thrilled about the idea, but she's just sort of like, okay, whatever, if it's gonna save my father, then fine. And so the two of them get scheming, they get plotting, and they come to the conclusion that getting fake married would be the best solution for solving Roman's problems and also keeping Nina's dad out of trouble. My absolute favorite part of this book is definitely the characters. Nina is just like, she is such a character. I absolutely adore her. She comes up with this genius idea of pretending to act a bit like a trophy wife to sort of fool all of Roman's men to help him get to the bottom of whoever this traitor is in their mix. And so there is obviously a plot in this book of them discovering who the rat is, who the mole is, and flushing him out. I really enjoyed that, and I think it was really fun to watch it unravel. And just quietly between you and me, there is a few scenes in this book where Nina goes shopping with his credit card. So if you like scenes like that, then maybe check this one out. And my final recommendation for you today today is The Devil I Don't Know by L.K. Shaw. This one is another arranged marriage, but this time it's between the Italians and the Irish. The old Italian capo is getting pretty poorly in his old age, and so his son, his heir, our main male character Jacob, decides to finally return to Brooklyn to take over the family business and their empire. And at the beginning of this book, there is obviously talks with the Irish of forming an alliance, and say it with me everybody, what is the best way for these mafia families to form an alliance? With an arranged marriage. And so Brenna, the granddaughter of the Irish leader, is pushed into this arranged marriage with Jacob. This is probably the simplest book on my list, so if you're not wanting to invest too many brain cells, don't want to use too much brain power, but you're still after a like well-paced mafia romance where the characters are easy to connect to and the man actually respects his wife, could you imagine? I would definitely recommend checking this one out. And with that, we have come to the end of my recommendation video. I have literally waited my entire channel, my entire 2 years of this channel, to film this video, so I'm like so happy that it's done, and I'm just like so happy to get my love for mafia romance out there. If you have any that you think I would like or that you want me to check out, please comment them down below, because I'm always on the hunt for new good mafia romances, and yeah, I'm just like so in the mood for them at the moment, so I'm very, very happy that I got to film this video. And I really hope you have found some new mafia romances to read, because one of my favorite genres. I hope it's one of yours as well, because I mean, you're here, I don't know. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. My Instagram, Goodreads and TikTok, I'm a TikToker now, hello, are all linked in the description if you want to check them out, if you want to see what I'm reading, if you want to message me, talk about books with me, if you want to see what stupid stuff I'm posting on TikTok, go check them out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found some new recommendations, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye!